Right now in Good Morning America, first look, the most powerful storm on Earth this year now bearing down on Jamaica, approaching as a Category 5, winds of 175 miles per hour. We hear from American tourists stranded on the island. An all-nighter at the World Series, a history-making Game 3 stretching deep into the wee hours of the morning on the East Coast. Fans exhausted, players served fruit in the dugout, the history made in Los Angeles, and how the game finally ended. The wild police chase hitting speeds of nearly 150 miles per hour, ending in this dramatic crash. A sheriff's deputy allegedly killed by that suspect before the chase.
Concerns about a hunger crisis because of the government shutdown. Food pantries popping up at airports. The questions being raised about whether emergency funds can be used to help people in need.
Cancer in the Corn Belt. What could be to blame for a disturbing increase in cancer cases in Iowa?
A major clue in the search for a missing 9-year-old apparently disguised in a wig.
A flight attendant accidentally deploys the emergency slide. How much this mistake could cost the airline?
And later, the high-tech refrigerator that comes with nonstop ads.
From ABC News, this is Good Morning America. First look.
Good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm Sophie Flake.
And I'm Perry Russum. Hurricane Melissa is the strongest storm the planet has seen this year, and at this hour, it is bearing down on Jamaica.
The storm so intense, hurricane hunters flying into the eye had to turn back. Many American tourists unable to evacuate, and overnight, word of the first storm-related deaths on the island. Here's ABC's Lionel Moise.
Jamaica is bracing for the most powerful storm on record to hit the island, up to 40 inches of rain, more than 13 feet of storm surge. Melissa approaching as a Category 5 hurricane overnight with winds up to 175 miles per hour. This capsized boat already seen in this bay. Sparks flying as winds damage trees and power lines. 3 deaths already reported before the worst of the storm hits. This video from Air Force hurricane hunters shows inside the eye of Melissa, the eye wall nearly vertical. The flight forced to turn back after hitting severe turbulence. A Miami-based hurricane researcher calling it the most turbulent he's ever seen.
They had to go back for inspections to make sure the aircraft is okay. That is really kind of a haunting report.
Local officials telling people in low-lying areas last night to get out now. ABC's Ika Jachi is in Kingston.
People here in Jamaica are stocking up on water, stocking up on non-perishable foods, and moving to higher elevations, all while making sure the vulnerable population has everything they need.
The United Cajun Navy, formed after Hurricane Katrina, ready to assist.
We have folks on the ground waiting to take assessments, let us know what the needs are.
Aid groups from the U.S. already in Jamaica say they're planning for long-term airport closures. Tourists are stranded, forced to ride out the storm and foot the bill. Nearly 30 people from a wedding, including the bride and groom, now sharing an Airbnb after their resort said it would charge up to $200 extra per night to extend their stay.
We're all here together, hunkering down. We just cleaned up and moved all patio furniture out of the way, put everything up that we could. We're going to tape the windows.
This woman from South Carolina stuck on a girls' trip.
It's a little nerve-wracking. I'm nervous. I'm a little anxious. And my family, they're very worried about me.
And a couple from Arkansas celebrating their anniversary, now stranded.
We have 2 kids back home. So they were expecting their parents back on Sunday night.
Melissa is making landfall later this morning, and the big concern is flooding, landslides, and those catastrophic winds. Cuba will be next. The U.S. Navy is already evacuating non-essential personnel from Guantanamo Bay. Sophie, Perry.
Lionel, thank you. Also happening overnight, the longest game in World Series history in terms of innings. It ended at 2:51 in the morning Eastern time. Freddie Freeman's solo home run in the bottom of the 18th finally did it. The Dodgers outlasting the Blue Jays 6-5. The game lasting 6 hours and 39 minutes. Freeman's walk-off comes a year after he had a go-ahead grand slam to beat the Yankees in Game 1 of the 2024 World Series. More from LA and some of the funnier moments from this epic game coming up later.
A potential shakeup stemming from President Trump's immigration crackdown. Sources say the administration is considering removing up to 12 officials who oversee ICE field offices across the country and replacing them with Border Patrol officials. The shift is aimed at speeding up the pace of deportations. Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bavino is set to face a judge today. He's accused of violating a court order by throwing tear gas at protesters.
Now to the government shutdown, day 28. Food banks are popping up at airports and other places to help government workers going without paychecks, and questions are now being raised about whether contingency funds can be used to help those who are in need of food assistance. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio has the story. Nicole, good morning.
Well, Perry, good morning. The Trump administration says its hands are tied when it comes to using those contingency funds, but Democrats claim it's a choice and the stakes couldn't be higher for Americans already struggling to get by. With the government shutdown extending into week 5, President Trump overnight in Japan, signing multiple trade agreements, including a deal to strengthen the supply chain of rare earth minerals.
We're going to do tremendous trade together, I think more than ever before.
The trip overshadowed by what could become a hunger crisis here at home. 42 million Americans could lose government food assistance by the end of the week.
I'm already struggling. I'm already stretching food. Got to come up with a plan so the kids can still eat and still go to school.
House Speaker Mike Johnson agreeing with the Trump administration's argument that they cannot legally tap into emergency funds to keep the government's nutrition program running during the shutdown.
The reason is because it's a finite source of funds. It was appropriated by Congress, and if they transfer funds from these other sources, it pulls it away immediately from school meals and infant formula.
But Democrats say the administration has moved money around before, including to pay military expenses.
The emergency funding is there. The administration is just choosing not to use it.
Some Republicans have proposed standalone bills to fund specific programs, but Democrats have voted them down.
Government workers and every other American affected by this shutdown have become nothing more than pawns in the Democrats' political games.
The largest union representing federal workers is now urging Democrats to vote to reopen the government. But Democrats not budging on their demand that health care subsidies be extended, saying that otherwise tens of millions of Americans will see their health insurance premiums skyrocket. With no end to the shutdown in sight, more people are feeling the pain. Air traffic controllers are set to miss their first full paycheck today. They're still legally required to show up to work, but many are calling out sick.
Drive safe. Have a good day.
Food pantries are now popping up at airports to help those unpaid federal employees, including TSA workers. And several states are now increasing their funding to food banks, which were already stretched thin. Sophie.
Nicole, thank you. A college student from India is in custody for allegedly stabbing 2 people on a flight from Chicago using a metal fork from the meal service. The Lufthansa flight to Germany was diverted to Boston. The suspect allegedly stabbed 2 teenagers, one in the head. They survived. If convicted, the suspect could face 10 years in prison.
Now to California, and the wild police chase the suspect wanted for shooting a sheriff's deputy. Last night, officers outside Los Angeles lining the streets, honoring a sheriff's deputy killed in the line of duty. Deputy Andrew Nunez was among the law enforcement responding to a domestic violence call in San Bernardino County. Deputies were fired upon as they arrived, and Nunez was shot in the head. As he was rushed to the hospital, the suspect racing away on a motorcycle.
The suspect left the area on a motorcycle and subsequently was pursued by our deputy sheriffs with aerial support overhead.
The suspect speeding down the freeway, hitting 100 miles an hour, then 130, eventually reaching nearly 150 miles an hour as he weaved through traffic. An officer on a motorcycle managed to get close to him, but the suspect cranking the throttle to race away. Moments later, he's seen here pulling out a gun. He seems to chamber a bullet, all without touching the handlebars. Less than a minute later, a car driven by an off-duty officer pulls into his lane and hits him, launching the suspect and the motorcycle into the air.
An off-duty deputy sheriff who put himself on duty and conducted a legal intervention by hitting the suspect on the motorcycle, causing the motorcycle to go down.
Despite the violent toss, the suspect was later seen conscious and sitting up. He was rushed to the hospital in stable condition. He survived, but Deputy Nunez did not. He leaves behind a 2-year-old daughter and a pregnant wife.
I certainly hope for the family that we can provide some level of peace by making sure that the suspect is held to answer for this crime, and we'll all continue to move forward as a department.
Murder charges are expected soon against the suspect.
President Trump says bad fuel may be to blame for back-to-back military crashes in the South China Sea. A fighter jet and Navy helicopter went down within 30 minutes of each other during routine operations. All crew members were safely recovered.
More storms are likely in Florida today, where the ground is already saturated. Some areas of central Florida got 19 inches of rain Sunday night, the ground giving way in some areas. Let's check your Tuesday forecast.
Good morning. We're watching potentially catastrophic Hurricane Melissa making its final approach to Jamaica this morning, likely making a landfall just after daybreak as either a very strong Category 4, more likely a Category 5 hurricane before moving into eastern Cuba and eventually up toward Bermuda by later on in the week. But it's all about the impacts on Jamaica. Hurricane warnings in effect. No big surprise there. These strong winds are going to send a 9 to 13-foot storm surge onto the south side of the island. The bigger story, the rainfall could be upwards of 40 inches of rain, especially over western parts of the island. Meteorologist Jeff Smith, ABC News.
Coming up, big layoffs at Amazon.
Also ahead, a Delta flight attendant accidentally deploys the emergency slide. How much the mistake costs the airline.
And cancer in the Corn Belt. What could be to blame for a disturbing increase in cancer cases in Iowa? It was a costly mistake. A Delta flight attendant accidentally deployed the emergency slide just before departing from Pittsburgh, causing a 4-hour delay. The mistake cost the airline tens of thousands of dollars in repairs and rebookings.
Amazon is reportedly planning to cut up to 30,000 corporate jobs this week. The cuts are reportedly due in part to overhiring during the pandemic. It comes a week after the New York Times reported Amazon is looking to use automation to avoid hiring more than 500,000 workers in the future.
We turn now to growing concern about cancer rates in the heartland and questions being raised about a troubling trend in Iowa.
This morning, a troubling investigation by the Washington Post finds cancer rates among young adults are rising fastest in the nation's Corn Belt, raising concerns that farm pollution could be to blame. Since 2015, America's top corn-producing states, Iowa, Nebraska, Illinois, Minnesota, Indiana, and Kansas, have all seen an uptick in cancer cases among people ages 15 to 49, particularly kidney and skin cancers. But Iowa stands out with the fastest increase in the country. Experts say the state is a hotspot for cancer-causing agents.
The nitrate levels in the Raccoon River are twice that of the EPA limit. I don't think it's quite right that we have no regulations on how much fertilizer can be dumped in our watershed upstream.
Studies show nitrate pollution from farming and livestock operations is contaminating Iowa's water, and long-term exposure to fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides has been linked to higher cancer risks. Environmental groups are now urging the state to strengthen its water standards. Agricultural groups worry additional rules for farmers would be costly and could cripple the industry. For now, researchers say they're determined to find out if chemical runoff from farms is in fact what's making people sick.
We really need you to compare to bordering states and states that have similar exposures, specifically thinking about agriculture or industry.
Experts say better detection tools make it easier to diagnose cancer, but that alone doesn't explain why rates are rising so sharply.
Coming up, a new warning for parents this Halloween about counterfeit candy.
But first, a major new clue in the search for a missing 9-year-old apparently disguised in a wig.
Back now with an officer near Chicago in the right place at the right time. He saw this woman suddenly pull over, so he stopped to check on her. Turns out she was choking, so he performed the Heimlich maneuver, freeing whatever was stuck inside her throat. She is okay.
Police in Santa Barbara County, California, searching for a missing girl, have released new images showing her appearance may have been altered. They believe 9-year-old Melody Buzzard was last seen wearing a wig under her hoodie in these surveillance images taken at a car rental business October 7th. They believe she vanished shortly after during a road trip with her mother. Police say Melody's mother has been uncooperative.
Now to a new warning for parents this Halloween about products that appear to be Halloween candy.
Police are urging parents to be extra vigilant this Halloween when checking the packaging of the candy their kids get.
I saw an ambulance truck come up to the school. I was like, what's going on over there?
Near Sacramento, California, several third graders got sick after eating candy later found to contain THC, the active ingredient in marijuana. The school principal says the packaging closely resembled regular candy, and the student who brought it to school had no idea what it actually was.
Today's candies that come from dispensaries looks exactly like the candy that you would buy in a grocery store.
A police department in Michigan warning in addition to weed candy, other counterfeit candy contains psilocybin mushrooms.
We thought to ourselves, wow, if a group of trained investigators looked at this and didn't pay any attention, what's your average kid going to do on Halloween? And we just felt we wanted to get this message out there to parents and children to be vigilant this Halloween season.
Authorities in Arkansas showing these examples of illegal candy-like products still sold in convenience stores. Police say the brands shown here are not behind the counterfeit products. A spokesperson for the National Confectioners Association saying the theft of intellectual property by cannabis companies is egregious. With consumer safety as our top priority, we advocate for common sense regulations to ensure cannabis-containing edibles are viewed as distinct from confectionery products.
Look for unusual symbols, unusual odors, anything that may indicate this isn't normal. And if you're a child and you're not sure what you have, go to an adult.
Police also reminding parents to keep edibles locked up.
Coming up, the high-tech refrigerator that comes with nonstop ads.
But first, the historically long World Series Game 3 reaction from LA.
Time to check the pulse. We begin with the equivalent of 2 World Series games for the price of 1.
The Blue Jays and Dodgers went deep into extra innings, Game 3 going so long, the fans at Dodger Stadium were just as exhausted as the players. Nobody expected this one to go 18 innings.
At one point, the Blue Jays were offered a platter of fruit in their dugout.
But then LA's Freddie Freeman stepped up at the bottom of the 18th and ended it with one swing, his walk-off homer, giving the Dodgers a 6-5 win. 18 innings ties for the longest World Series game ever by innings. A Dodgers game in the 2018 World Series went 18 innings as well. After the game, Freeman could barely contain himself.
Pure excitement. When you grind and fight, and our bullpen and our pitching staff did what they did, to have that go 6 hours and 40 minutes or so, that's as good as it gets.
And for his part, the absolute Dodgers star Shohei Ohtani reached base 9 times, and he better get some rest because he's supposed to pitch tonight. Dodgers lead the series 2-1. Next, Samsung is getting a chilly reception over plans to launch ads on some smart fridges.
The ads are expected to roll out next week. They'll appear on the front screen of the company's Family Hub line, which has a starting price of $2,000. Many customers will be relieved to know they can turn off the ads. Next, a quick fix for anyone who can't afford a luxury vacation.
So you can now travel to the destination of your choice with a little help from AI. Some new apps will place you in your dream getaway. All you have to do, upload a few pictures of yourself, use the fictional vacation photos just to fool your friends. And finally, they are too young to trick or treat, but they are old enough to celebrate their first Halloween.
Check out the NICU floor at Cleveland Clinic. The tiniest babies are decked out in the most adorable costumes. The newborns bringing their families some joy during what can be a very emotional time.
Little ladybug there. What's that, a penguin?
Penguin!
It's not some nice joy for those families during
Monsters,
a very
Inc.
stressful time. We love Monsters, Inc., don't we? A little football, too. All right, top headlines coming up next.
Checking more top stories, Hurricane Melissa is slamming Jamaica. It approached the island as a Category 5 storm with winds of 175 miles per hour. At least 3 deaths are already confirmed on the island, which could see 40 inches of rain.
Authorities say 2 victims of a workplace shooting in Tennessee were supervisors at a plastics factory. They say the suspect is reportedly a former employee at Barku Plastics. He later turned the gun on himself.
President Trump and Japan this morning signed new agreements on trade in critical minerals. Stocks rallied yesterday on news of a potential trade deal with China. Trump meets with President Xi Thursday.
A fan who fell from the stands during a Pittsburgh Penguins hockey game is in critical condition. He fell from the upper level after Pittsburgh scored its 2nd goal. Earlier this year, a man fell from the stands during a Pittsburgh Pirates baseball game.
Today's weather, more storms in Florida. Rain also for the mid-Atlantic and from the Gulf Coast to the Great Lakes.
And finally, the grandmother known as Crazy Ann.
She's got some important life advice. Here's Danny New.
To her more than 4 million followers across social media, this 64-year-old grandmother of 2 is known as Crazy Auntie Ann.
Ann, have you always been the world's queen of spunk?
I think I've always been a little bit quirky.
For the past few years, millions have watched this former educator in Northern England just have a little silly fun, doing things like pretending to be a DJ at her stovetop. When the bass gets bumping up in the club. Or dancing in the kitchen with her granddaughter. One commenter writing, "Oh, so I can be like this when I'm older. Thank God."
The older I get, the less I care what people think.
But to get to this kind of comfort in her own skin, Ann says she had to go through some dark times first. At 44 years old, she entered a rehabilitation center to treat alcoholism and is now 19 years sober.
As bizarre as that sounds, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because that gave me the ability to be grateful for life.
Once she left, Ann turned her life around and got into teaching, spending 12 years educating teenagers about mental health. In fact, that is why she started making these kinds of videos specifically during the pandemic.
When we went into the pandemic and all my students were in the bedrooms, I thought, how can I get my students motivated?
Her answer? To start making lighthearted videos to cheer her students up before class. And now, just a few years later, not only is she quite famous online, but Ann is even now starting to perform her own DJ sets. Look out, music world.
I'm just going to enjoy my life, and life's too short not to, isn't it?
And guys, Ann said not only is she getting recognized quite a bit now, but even her grandkids have started getting asked by their teachers, hey, did I see your grandma on TikTok?
I want to hang with her.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I want to go to one of her shows. That's your Good Morning America First Look.
Have a great day.